Hey YouTube, welcome back. Last video I was working on the frame. You see I cut out a little bit on towards the back of it, and that's to make a spot for, they call an axle flip, and this is a C notch, so it just gives a little bit more clearance for the axle on the big bumps. I ordered this kit off of Amazon, one of the cheaper ones. My plan is, I didn't do any measurements on the truck before I started tearing it apart, so I don't know how much it's going to get lowered. This says it's a 5 inch lower. I suspect it's going to be more than that. I'm not going for crazy lower, but I do want it lowered and the axle flip, so whether I need to raise it up afterwards, we'll figure that out when that time comes. But so these get put on the frame. They come with bolts to bolt it on, but I'm actually going to weld it on. I'm going to take some of this paint off and weld it on. I just think that'll be better and easier. And these pieces are for taking the axle from underneath the leaf spring and putting it on top. Probably go explain that here right away, but yeah, a little bit more to do. And we'll get at her. So here's the old rusty axle. We'll cut these U-bolts off because I'm sure I'm never going to get those nuts off of there. And then what happens is the axle comes on top of the leaf, and this sits on there. Axle sits in there, and then this will go on top, and the U-bolts will go through, so then the axle's up here. And like I say, I think it's going to be more than 5 inches. I'm hoping, I was just going for a 5-inch lower, and then I can do 3 on the front, but we'll get the back lowered and then address the front at some point. Probably order some lowering spindles, some 3-inch lower spindles, and then once the truck's together, decide whether I need a different coil spring to lower it even more. So we'll see how that goes. This needs to be sandblasted and painted too. Lots of work to do. And here's the C-notch part. So I cut out the little opening for that. I've sprayed it with weld through primer just to seal off the steel and hopefully avoid some rust. Because once I get this on there, I'll have 2 painted surfaces, so hopefully no rust will build up in between there. I'm going to grind off the edges so I can weld, and then I'm going to plug weld the holes rather than drill into the frame and try to bolt it all up. I think that will be a better solution. I don't think there's going to be a lot of stress on this portion. It's over the axle. All you got is the back of the truck. I'm not going to be hauling a lot of stuff on the truck. I can't see a lot of weight being on the back of it, but it should be still fairly solid. So let's get at it. And then the other thing I got to do is, let's get you here. The other thing I got to do is I got to move this forward 6 inches. There is already holes made for it. I've got the 2 top rivets cut out. I got to cut out the bottom rivets. Move that forward, chop off 6 inches off the back, and then I am ready to paint. And I know everybody's excited for that. I'm excited for that. So